Very Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. And of course, it's another one. Let's meet the panel.
Larry.
Hey, I'm Austin.
I'm Charlie.
And I'm Josh. And today we're going to be going over a very special poem, which it's a Maya Angelou poem. So those are always meant to be admired because Maya Angelou is a renowned poet. The poem that we're going over is On a Pulsive Morning. It just so happens that just about 20, or a little more than 25 years ago, on January 20th, 1993, she read this at Bill Clinton's inauguration. And she wrote the poem for that occasion, and a lot of her points reflected his own. In April, she would have been 90 years old. She passed away in 2014. But I wanted to explore the inspiration behind this, and my question about the poem is, what do you feel Angelou was trying to say with this poem? And do you feel that it applied specifically to Clinton, or could it be applied to any president? Charlie.
First of all, I think the poem was, in a nutshell, carpe diem. Seize the day just began, let's go out there and make it a good day. Of course, it can be, I think it can be applied to anyone. It can be applied to business owners, whether large or small. It could be applied, yes, to presidents and their families. It could be applied. I think it can be applied to students who are either just started their very first day of college, or students who just started their first day of high school. Whatever. It can apply to anybody. I'm sure it can apply to me as well.
Yeah, I think it can. So my understanding of it, I feel like it's not a poem that promises anything. It's a poem that says we should strive to do better, and that we should strive to make a positive impact on the world and learn not only from our predecessors, but just learn from the history of the world in general.
Exactly.
And so because of that, I think it's something that can really be applied to anybody. I think anytime, and the whole idea of the poem is anytime there's an inauguration, it's a big event in the U.S. We make a lot of noise about it, and there's good reason. Oftentimes it's a big transition for the country, and I think that this poem kind of is looking at it that way. It's saying this inauguration is going to be a big transition because any inauguration is, and I kind of took it as saying with this new change in administration, we should be focusing on what we can do for the better, and we should focus on what our relationships are with not only other nations, but also our relationships with our own citizens, and that we should strive to do things that are going to benefit.
And it was a drastic change too, because Bill Clinton was much younger, much fresher face. For the last 12 years, you had Ronald Reagan, who broke the record for being the oldest president, and George Bush Sr. was 65. Or he was turning 65 when he was elected. And I personally think that Maya Angelou was she had an admiration for Bill Clinton, but I don't think that it showed. I think in this poem it was very objective. I think that it can be applied to anybody in how. To me, I got a lot of reflections of Dover Beach by Matthew Arnold. It's a poem about the emotions that nature. It's told from the point of view of nature and how it's being personified. In this case, nature is recalling its observance of the world even before it was a rock, a tree, and a river as separate beings.
And the simplest, with the, I guess you could say the imagery, a rock, a tree, a river, very simple, but yet so very elegant, you know?
I think
Very elegant.
the very first, she makes mention in the very first lines.
I think she mentioned the ocean too.
She talks about how how they've hosted species that have long since departed. She's referring to dinosaurs and mastodon, and how this world can guarantee an occupation, but it cannot guarantee the ability for them to burrow into nature and assert their presence indefinitely, because there is this idea that humans can become like dinosaurs in the way that human extinction is very possible, and they can drive themselves into doing so. In this poem, though, there is a sense of hope that this can be prevented.
Yeah, to me, I think that the way that she stretches it out across the entire, not only history of humankind, but history of life itself, in a way, right? Going all the way back to the dinosaurs, all the way to this moment in time, is kind of like, this is the biological track that we've taken, kind of from a Darwinian perspective, right? Where we have been these things, and now here we are, you know, right now in this place, on this, you know, on the precipice of being, right, where everything that has happened until this point has led us to this moment, and you know, it's time to kind of, you know, come together, right? Is what I think what she's calling for is for everybody to you know, as she says in the end, you know, look at each other and say good morning.
And if you listen to her on YouTube, or if you listen to her read the poem, which I'm going to leave a link down below to where you can find her reading it, the way that she says good morning, it's a more uppity, cheerful kind of, it's with enthusiasm and emotion.
Yeah, it's emotional. I would agree with that, but I think it's very what's the word, like serious, you know? You know, there are better words, but
it is a very serious and a very straightforward poem. Yeah, that is most certainly true.
Like sincere. That's the word I was looking for. It's very sincere and deliberate in its implication.
Could you say solemn, almost? But not solemn as like good morning. Something like,
good morning.
There you go.
That's how it sounds.
Yeah.
No, it sounded more like good morning. That's how I heard it.
Good
We
morning.
all hear things differently.
Yeah, apparently.
That's true on both sides. We do hear things differently. Don't mind me. I didn't mean to jack the book for a moment.
And then the video actually showed her going up and hugging Bill Clinton, and he probably gave her a kiss on the cheek too.
But I like, you know, how she talks about history too. We just talked about The Giver, right? Recently, and the importance of history, and she's like, you know, bringing up that same sentiment of we have to know our history. We have to be brave enough to confront our history.
One of the things I also like about it is, like you said, it kind of plots out this whole story of history of the world in general, going back not only just to dinosaurs, but then farther to that rock, to that tree, to that river, and et cetera, et cetera. And so in some ways, when you look at it in that way, it's kind of like, wow, we've existed for like such a short time. I almost feel like it's insignificant. But then she kind of also invokes this, like you said, we're still forging forward. And even though, yeah, our moment right now is only a dot on this super huge, long timeline, our decisions right now are going to affect what comes next. And so it puts things in perspective to say, hey, the world is not just us, but also the decisions we make are super important. And so we shouldn't feel like, I feel like there's this thing in like nihilism at times and stuff that people are like, oh, well, you look at the history of the world, it's been so long and we're but a blip in the world. But I think what comes out of this poem is, yeah, we are a blip, but the choices we make now are going to affect everything that comes after. And so like it has that importance.
Marty, did we have any other things that we wanted to bring up?
Well, yeah, just to respond to what you just said. Yeah, I think, you know, there's also a sense of responsibility in the fact that we are standing on the shoulders of, thousands of years worth of dead ancestors. And here we are now. And we are the representation of all that has come, and all, and in a way, we're manufacturing what the future is. So,
And this was 25 years ago. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but this was 25 years ago. These people at the time need to think about, well, us. 25 years ago, I started drumming, by the way, at age, not going to tell you how old I was, but quite young. And we need to, and for us, we need to consider another 25 years, 30, or another day. We need to consider all of us, me as well, of course.
Right.
We all have to take into consideration. There's more. I walked in, to where we are today, and a little child walked up to me, and I'm wearing a police PBA shirt. It's appreciation, whatnot. And he said, "Are you a police officer?" And I had to say, "No, little boy, I'm sorry." But I got this shirt from a police officer who's a friend of mine. And then we actually started talking a little bit. And he said, "Wow, okay, I understand." I gave this kid, I don't know, I gave him, I guess, a pat on the head or something, a high five, point in his day.
What would I say? I would say that if there's something that I got out of this, I think this was a naturalist argument for what we as people need to do in order to give ourselves a positive advancement forward as beings in this world. As beings in this world, not necessarily from a particular country or a particular background.
Everywhere.
Yes, it's an everybody affair, even though it is very much about America, because I think when looking at things optimistically, America is a country that was built on being a country for everybody, and she makes mention to all of the people of different nationalities and backgrounds,
And the religions as well, and cultural differences. We are all included.
right, and it's very American, I think. And if you look back through history too, there is room for hope, right? Because progress is slow and has been slow, and as technology improves, things change more rapidly. But we've come a long way, right? I mean, we're only 200 years ago. Slavery was just a part of life. It was just omnipresent. And now, at least, we have learned to reject that as an idea, as something that should exist in the world. So there is progress, and we have to take it seriously that we could slip back into that kind of world.
And also,
but we need to make choices to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, the moral arc of the universe is long, but it swings towards justice.
Alrighty then. If you're interested in reading this and Maya Angelou's other poetry, here is a collection, Maya Angelou, the Complete Poetry. This is everything that she has written in the poetic form. She's written some essays, and she wrote a novel too. Yeah, it's Why the Caged Bird Sings. That's
what's that?
Yeah, it's a novel. Because, this is something I really want to make my way through when I get the opportunity to do so. We went over her poetry as a whole on our show before, and Charlie went over one of her poems, a video. So I will leave links down below to that as well. Be sure to join us next time for another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now, keep reading.